Hey, welcome back. Today is Thursday, the 29th of June. It's like after 7 p.m. already. I spent a lot of time on the road today, no time out here in the shop. And to be honest, it was a nice little break from being out here in the heat. That being said, I've got two fuel tanks here that are nose up so that gravity can work in our favor while the sealant on the baffle is curing. I do have some small things left to do on this. I have to attach the Z-brackets and the access plates. And with respect to that, I got the replacement fuel sender for the right tank right here. And also I have another tool right here that I said that I wasn't gonna get. So rather than explain that right now, I'll just talk about it while you watch me do boring stuff like bend a little piece of coat hanger on this fuel sender and get it ready to install tomorrow. Because that's really about all that's gonna happen today, is just getting a little bit of prep done so that tomorrow we can mix up a small amount of sealant and get those last finishing touches done on these tanks. So that's it for the intro. Let's do things related to the building of an airplane.
First up, just getting the old Pro Seal out of these syringes. Do yourself a favor, go pick up a set of these orange picks at the checkout line at Harbor Freight. They're worth all $1.98. So these are the little bits that were getting pulled into the nose piece of the rivet puller. That was what was causing me so much grief. And as you see right there, I did pick up a pneumatic rivet puller. I'll talk more about that here in a couple of minutes. Got the new replacement fuel sender and carefully checking the van's plans to make sure that I don't screw it up, because the error I made last time was so silly. So double checking that. This is all normal stuff. You've seen this before. So let's talk about why I went ahead and picked up that pneumatic rivet puller. I said before that there aren't enough pulled rivets in this kit to justify the cost of a good rivet puller. And I also said that yesterday I almost bought an inexpensive, like a $39 rivet puller, pneumatic rivet puller at Harbor Freight, except that they were out of stock, at least in the Harbor Freight nearest me. And last night, one of the viewers, I think Lee Kitson, who built an RV-8 and started flying it about a year and a half ago, he said he picked up one of those $39 jobs and absolutely loved it, never had any trouble with it. So I said, fine, that's all I needed to convince me. So today, when I said I spent a lot of time on the road, I went to the nearest Harbor Freight that said that they had it in stock, only to find out that they didn't have it in stock. And the next place that did have it was much further. So, yeah. At that point, I was committed, and I ended up spending about 3 hours driving today. So my $39 Harbor Freight pneumatic squeezer, did it really cost me $39? Not really. So here, making all the necessary bends, and because you can't see my face, I'm just going to say, yes, I do have eye protection on. Promise. This was a simple task, mainly because I've done it before. All the measurements were correct. I still measured them 3 times, only cut once. Okay, this got a little irritating, I suppose. Because of all that's gone on, I actually ended up with 3 of the sending units right here. So I figured I'll bring them all out and pick the one that I like the best. And the multimeter's out there because you test it, you check it through the full range, the arc that the arm will sweep through. You'll have it measures a difference in resistance. So on the high end, it should be about, I think, 248 ohms, and the low end, 32 ohms. I spent a lot of time doing this because 2 of the 3 were giving me kind of wonky, inconsistent readings. The one that I was getting good readings on is bent. Like the actual mounting arm on that piece is bent. And so what I finally ended up doing was just saying, this is still the one that gives me the most consistent reading. So You'll see me bending on a little bit to get the angle correct on that thing, and then I tested it again. So anyways, that was a little bit weird, but basically, in the tiny bit of work that I did in the shop today, I spent an hour and 7 minutes, let's say. Plus, I probably before that spent an hour just kind of undoing all the mess that I left in my house from the previous 2 days of installing the baffles. So anyways, that's why you see me spending so much time with this multimeter going back and forth with these different senders. And there I'm kind of comparing the angles, confirming that one in fact did come out of the box a little bit bent, or maybe I should say underbent. And there you see me bending it more to a 90-degree angle. Anyways, that's kind of boring stuff, but that's what was going on there. So now I'm going to get into trying to figure out this pneumatic squeezer. The instructions are kind of funny in that it says you need to prime it by removing the bottom of the case and the cylinder and then putting hydraulic oil in there. And then in the box it says not included. When you open it up in there, you can see that there is hydraulic oil in there. And I did go online and look, and some people say, yeah, I never put anything in there. Another guy said, I thought I followed the instructions and I ended up overfilling it. So I decided that it was good enough. And if it didn't work, then I'll know to go in there and put some hydraulic oil in. So I'm happy with that. Now I'm changing the nose piece to a 3/32, which is the size of the mandrel of these rivets that we're working with. And okay, really importantly, enough about that thing. When we're attaching the Z brackets, those rivets sit really close to the bracket itself. There's not enough room to cleanly get the head of a rivet puller over the mandrel without it leaning over. So you have to make a little wedge, which is described in section 5, how to create this wedge out of a piece of material that you don't actually get with the RV-8 kit, because the RV-8 has, and the RV-7 and probably others, they have folding trailing edges, so you don't get these pieces of what they call AEX, this wedge type extrusion. When I went to go visit Joe the other day, he gave me the one that he made, because there is actually a tool for this that basically helps you set the rivet puller, like the mandrel, set at an angle, but still holding the rivet head flat. That's what that wedge does. And you can see in this picture how it holds the rivet flush while pulling the mandrel at an angle. And so I used that little wedge that Joe gave me. Okay, so he gave me that tiny little wedge because he has an actual tool for that. He ended up buying the tool later on, so he didn't need this little wedge thing. But there is a special tool that you can use to do this if you have to do a lot of it. RV-12 builders, it's popular with them because they do a billion pulled rivets. Anyways, I showed you earlier those tiny little pieces of aluminum. That stuff also got pulled into that little wedge, and in cleaning it out, the hole got rounded out in that wedge. And I don't think that the wedge is really that effective anymore, because the hole in it is, I think, a little bit too rounded out. I don't know. We'll see tomorrow when I cleco on those, when I cleco on the Z brackets and just sort of test it. We'll see how it goes. I think it's going to work out okay. Short version, that rivet puller appears to work great. I was just doing some playing around, trying to get the pressure setting on the compressor correct so that it's not hitting or pulling or whatever it does too hard. And I think that for me, the sweet spot on this for these closed end rivets is about 60 psi. That seemed to work pretty well. And I pulled a handful of rivets on a piece of scrap and didn't have any of that aluminum pulling into it. No, I take that back. I did. So that's what I'm going to have to deal with for 50 rivets. So there you go.